Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron and I'm ready to go. This project is going to be super cool. Something new that y'all haven't, well, you've seen it before, but you don't know what we're going to do to it. And I'm ready to get started. I got a couple things that I want to button up off camera on old Waldo the Wrecker today, just to get it to a good stopping point from yesterday when I stopped working on it. But I need to get this other truck up on the apron to work on it, and once again, looking like rain. I'm not afraid to get wet, but I don't really want to be out here in the rain trying to move this truck around. So before I do anything else, I think I'm gonna go ahead and fire up old Pennywise over there, bring it over here, suck this truck up on the trailer and take it over and put it on the apron, get it ready to work on. But you guys remember the Will It Run on the 79 Big 10? Well, she's still here, but she no longer belongs to me. One of my faithful subscribers, who's turned into a good friend, hit me up and asked me what I was doing with it. And every vehicle I come across, I got a plan in my head and a picture of what it's going to look like when it's done. And I told him I got plans for it, I'm doing something with it. And he goes, well, I really want a 79. And I've been looking and I haven't had much luck finding one. And I'm like, well, sorry, I don't want to sell it. I want to keep it. I want to do what I want to do to it. And then later on down the road, I talked to him again and he goes, you still holding back on that 79? And I said, yeah, you know, I really am. I want to do the idea that I have with it. And so after I got off the phone with him, I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I got all these someday projects that someday are probably never going to get done. I don't have time with all the other projects that I do to work on my own stuff. I don't have extra money to work on my own stuff. So if I can help somebody else out get the truck that they want, let's go ahead and do it. So I gave him a call back and said, hey, if you're still interested in that Big 10, it's yours. And he said, oh yeah, I'm still interested. And we worked it out and he purchased it from me. Well, after all that went through, he decided that he'd like the truck to be worked on Harmon Garage. So it's staying here. I don't know if I'm gonna do the entire truck. That's still to be determined, I guess. We'll see how far we get with it. But I think the way it sounds, we're gonna do the whole shebang. That thing's gonna be a full frame off. I don't want to say restoration because we're not going back stock, but it's not totally going to be like a full custom. So I don't want to give all the secrets away. Follow along and you know, we'll do our thing and you'll see what we do. And but a little backstory. This truck already has a name. The guy that bought it from me named it, and he said, hey, I really want the truck to be named this. And I said, well, you know, it's your truck. We can name it whatever you want to. And I respect his wishes. And just not too long ago, his father passed away. And his father was into cars and whatnot and trucks and whatever when he was younger. And that's what got him into cars and trucks and everything else. And his father's nickname was Shorty. So R.I.P. Shorty. This is gonna be his, I don't even know how to put it in words the right way, but this is kind of a memory of my dad thing for him, I think. And he wants to name the truck Shorty. So 79 Big 10 is now Shorty. I'm gonna get my stuff together and we're gonna get it over here where we can work on it. All right, as you saw in the time lapse, if I made it a time lapse, I got the truck loaded up, moved over onto the apron and dropped off. And then I had to run by my buddy's house real quick and help him with something. And then I buttoned up a couple things on Waldo, got spark plugs back in and cleaned up and did a couple things to make it better to be sitting there till the next time I work on it. Now I'm getting started on Shorty again. So we got it sitting up here. You guys have seen this truck before. And she's getting completely stripped, like 100%. The doors are junk. They're coming off. I'm gonna take all the good pieces that I can off of them. They can go to scrap. Everything's coming out. Bed's coming off. Front clips coming off. I got a new fender to replace this one that kind of beat up, and I think I can fix this one because it's just got one little spot. So the doors are gone. The owner of the truck has new doors he's going to bring me, but we're not in a hurry for those because it's going to be a while before I need doors. And either way, motor and trans is already out because I sold it. That's why we did the wheel it run on it, and we weren't going to use that motor and trans anyways. So front clips coming off, bed's coming off, doors are coming off. I'm gonna leave the cab and the steering column in it for right now. I'll strip them, but I'm gonna leave them on there and leave it in there because having the steering column hooked up and the drivability makes it a lot easier to move around. So the cab will eventually come off so I can paint the whole frame and make sure it's cleaned up good, but it's not gonna be right now. Right now I'm gonna strip everything but the cab, steering column, and then we'll get started with the first project. So I'm gonna go ahead and just strip a lot of stuff off. It's hard to film it because it's time consuming and you just have like 30 minutes of time lapses, and I don't wanna do that. So I'm just gonna strip it down and I'll give you guys updates and show you where we're at every once in a while. All right, well, making progress stripping this thing down. I got everything from the windshield forward off except the steering box and the steering shaft, because like I said, I want to leave the steering on because it makes it easier to move around. And obviously I got the front suspension because I can't roll it without it. So we're gonna do all the suspension, but I'm going to get this thing to where I'm ready to do the suspension. I'm gonna put it up on jack stands, tear everything off, and then go through and put everything back on. So the local police officer's pulling up, so let me give you guys a break for a second. I'll be right back. All right, he's just stopping by to check on me, see what I was doing, see what my new projects are or whatever. So no big deal, I wasn't worried about it. I don't do nothing wrong anyways. But regardless, I got this all stripped. Like I said, as far as I'm gonna go. Once I get it up on jack stands, I'll blast everything else off and we'll go ahead and do all the other stuff we're gonna do to it at that point. I decided not to pull the doors and the windshield off yet because I don't want to pull the rest of the interior out yet. I'm going to, obviously, sometime soon, but I don't want to right now. So I'm gonna leave the doors and the windows in so that it doesn't get wet and moldy and nasty in there. So the next thing I gotta do is pop off the rear bumper, pop off the bed, and then once I get the bed and the bumper off, I'll roll it over on the wash bay, degrease it, spray it, all that real good. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna get under there and start taking that bed off, and once we get the bed off, we'll go get it cleaned up, and then we'll actually get started on what we're doing in this video. Hey, guess what? Raining again. You'd think I lived in Florida or something, like every day for a half an hour for some reason now. And then half hour from now, sun will be shining, everything will be dry. I don't know what's going on. That's not normal weather for here. Anyways, you guys don't care about the weather here. Got the bed off Shorty. One of the first times I've ever taken one off that all the nuts came off the bolts, no problems. I didn't have to have anybody standing up in the bed, standing on them or trying to hold them while I was turning the nuts on the bottom. I was able to go underneath and get them all off with no problem. So that was great. Hung it from a cherry picker, backed the trailer up here, set the bed down on the bed down on the trailer, drove it away. I don't want to take you guys out in the rain, but maybe you can see it over there. Bed on trailer. Yeah, that's done. Next thing I'm gonna do right now, I'm cleaning up this mess. One of my buddies is stopping by. He's gonna help me push Shorty over onto the wash bay, because first thing in the morning I am going to give it a pressure washing like it's never had one before and get it all cleaned up. Then we'll start cutting it up, so stay tuned. All right, it's bright and early the next morning. We're gonna walk out here and I'm gonna try not to blind either one of us, but we got the old Shorty here on the wash bay, and I got it moved over here last night before I went home. My buddy that owns Waldo stopped by to drop some stuff off. He helped me get it over here, so thanks Justin for that. But I went to the dollar store and got some oven cleaner, which is about the best engine degreaser you can get. And it used to be $1 a can for the Dollar General brand stuff. Now it's $4.50. Ridiculous. I could almost go buy some gunk for that. But anyways, sorry, I'm still trying not to blind you guys. Okay, that's better. So I'm gonna get the pressure washer all set up. I'm gonna blast that frame as good as I can. And then up in the front where it's got some grease and oil and stuff, I'm gonna unload a whole bunch of that oven cleaner, and then we'll pressure wash it again. And if we need to, we'll probably pressure wash it again, because we wanna work on clean stuff. So I'm gonna get set up and ready to go. Okay, I got everything blasted off that would come off with the pressure washer. The back of the frame actually came out pretty good. I should be able to hand sand it and then go straight to paint with it. And then up here in the front, I blasted off everything I could get off, and then you saw me spray the oven cleaner on there. And I've seen people do this a lot of different ways. A lot of people just spray that oven cleaner on and then rinse it right back off. But I don't do it that way, because if you've ever cleaned an oven, you know you get it warm and spray that crap in there and let it sit. And then heat it up or whatever, and after you let it sit and heat it up and all that, then you go back and wipe it off. So I got the morning sun on that side of the building, and I got it all coated pretty good. So I'm gonna let that oven cleaner sit there for a minute and do its job. Let the sun beat on it, hopefully warm it up a little bit. And maybe we'll get some good results. So I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit. I'll fire the pressure washer back up, blast as much of that crap as I can off, give it one final rinse over, and then we'll be ready to bring it back over here and get to work. All right, I got this thing back over here from the wash bay, and I think I'm done for the day. No, not really, but we got it back over here, and the back of the frame's really clean. That'll be nice to work with. And then up here, I'm not gonna say it's great, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was, and it's gonna save me a lot of cleaning and scraping later on. So you might see I got the front end up on jack stands, and I got a level sitting back here on the back. So why are we doing that? Well, as you can see, frame's perfectly level there. Frame's perfectly level there. So this is the last day that this is ever going to be a long bed truck. We're gonna cut this frame down. This will be the first half ton I've done on the channel. I've done a 3/4 ton and a 1 ton, but this will be the first half ton. We're going to cut it down and make it a short bed, and we're also going to C-notch it for an axle flip because it's going to be lowered. So in order to do that, I have to get this exhaust out of my way, brake lines out of my way, taillight wiring out of my way, parking brake cables out of my way, and anything else that's in my way out of my way. And fuel tank. Fuel tank's got to go. And I got to get some jack stands up here at the back of the cab, so when I cut it, it don't slam down to the ground and then I'm screwed and can't get it done. So I got it sitting perfectly level right now. I'll put jack stands under it, and I'm not going to jack it up and set it on jack stands and then try to re-level it again. I'm going to leave it exactly where it's at, and I'm going to use some jack stands and whatever shims I need or whatever to keep it perfectly level like it is. That way after I cut it, I'll take my section out, and I'll probably stick a jack stand like under one side of the spring or something when I cut it, so it doesn't just slam down and so it stays up. But I leave it on the wheels and everything, so when I go to move it back forward to weld it back together, I can just roll it forward on the tires, stick a wheel chock behind it, and if you have the tires on, once you get that back together, I know that this frame was sitting perfectly level before I cut it, so it's gonna have to be sitting perfectly level before I weld it back together. So if I get it back and it's off a little bit, I can air up or let air out of the tires to level it back up. So that's just a little trick I use. It's worked good for me every time I've done it. It might work for you if you do this, it might not. But right now I'm gonna strip off all that stuff I told you I needed to strip off. I'll bring you back and we'll start cutting this thing up. Okay, before we get back on what we're doing, I think I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, I may have mentioned it. If I did, I'm repeating myself, but we're doing the t-shirt giveaway for a selected comment on this video as well. So I will announce the winner from the last video at the end of this video, and then make sure you're subscribed, you comment, and since you're already there, if you could hit the like button too, I'd appreciate it. But leave a comment. We'll do the random comment generator. Somebody's gonna win a t-shirt. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he told me, hey, you know, if you said that somebody can't win a shirt twice, and so what, you know, why would that lead them to want to still leave a comment or whatever? And he had a good idea, and I agree with him. So if you've already won and your name gets drawn again, you can't win another t-shirt, but I will send out a sticker package or something like that. You'll get something if you get drawn twice. I'll redo the random number to get somebody else for the shirt because you already have one. But if you get picked, I'll still send you something. So yeah, I needed to get that out because I think I forgot. But One thing I didn't mention, I said I needed to strip all this stuff back here, which I did. We're rewiring the truck, so I just hammered the taillight wiring off. If you're just shortening it and not rewiring the truck or anything, I always just go to the back, pull it up, and then I'll just take it over here, lay it out of the way where it won't get melted or anything. And then on your brake line, this is the main thing I want to talk about. On your brake line, you can see I took out all the clamps that hold it in, and I disconnected it from our rubber hose back there. And then I came up here in front of where I'm going to cut the frame, and I cut the brake line off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the rest of this brake line from the back out. And once we get it cut, moved forward and welded back together, and once I put my notch in because it'd be in the way for that too, then we'll put that brake line back in, cut it down where it needs to be cut, and then we'll flare both ends and put a union in there. And then we'll have a good brake line back in there. So that's just how I do it. I don't know, we may end up running all new brake lines, but these don't look bad, and I don't see a point. I can just clean them up and put them back in. So that's the best way to save your brake line. Don't just go cutting it or bending it or ripping it out of the way, because it's really hard to duplicate the factory bend on brake lines. Trust me, I know. So I'm gonna get my level out. I'm gonna make sure this is still sitting exactly how I want it to sit. I'm gonna get some jack stands under the back of the cab, and then I'm gonna turn the camera on and we're gonna start measuring and marking. All right, cue the haters. Time for everybody to tell me I don't know what I'm doing and I'm doing it wrong and I'm ruining the truck and yada yada yada. I've heard it all before. But I got my jack stands in everywhere. I'm going to put my level on here and make sure that I'm still sitting exactly where I want to be, and I am. Now, once again, this is the way I do it, and it may not be the way that you think is right, or it may not be the way that somebody else told you you should do it, or something like that. This is the way I do it. I've done a bunch of them. Works great. I'm going to show you how to do it. If you want to do it this way, cool. If not, there's other ways you can do it. So you can see right here, that's our front bed mounting hole. I always start my cut behind that hole, because then I can use that for alignment. Like your alignment for your bed to your cab stays identical because you're reusing the factory hole. So what I'm going to do is I'll come back here. I guess I'll measure it so they're identical, but it doesn't really matter. So from the back of the hole to my cut, I'm going to go 1.5 inches. Put my speed square on there. I'll make a line there. Turn my speed square up. Make a line there. And yes, I am drawing my line straight up and down. Perfectly straight up and down. Because that's how I'm going to cut it. I'm not zigzagging it. I'm not angling it. Not doing any of that stuff. When the factory or the dealerships cut the frames to lengthen them for flatbeds or whatever the case may be, the GM service manual said to cut it straight and plate it. So that's what I'm doing. So once again, if that's not the right way, then do it the other way. So we're going to take out 14 inches from the front, and then you take 5. Some say 4, some say 5. I kind of take off about 4, and then when I go to set the bed on it, if it needs more taken off, then I go back and take off more. But I'd rather take off not enough than too much. So Alright, got that side marked. We got 14 inches, center of line to center of line. I'm going to go over, mark the other side the same way. I'll probably come back and measure this again and set the level on it again and everything else, because I always do make sure that everything's perfect before I cut. So I'm going to do the exact same process over there. I'll measure back 1.5 inches from the back of the hole, mark it, measure back 14, mark it, and then we'll go over and do the same thing, or we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll bring you back and show you where we're at. Okay. Got it all measured, got it all marked, got it all leveled. I've checked everything twice. Now, I'm going to use a Sawzall to cut these because I feel like I have the most control that way, and I hate sparks, and I don't want to use a torch or a plasma cutter because then it causes a lot more grinding. This is a really clean cut, not a lot of sparks, and this is just my preference. It's the way I always do it. You can cut it however you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to cut my lines on the bottom of the frame, because otherwise you're cutting down and you get kind of lazy and you just keep going rather than like stopping and getting under there where you can see them, and then they end up being all crooked and janky and everything else. So I'm going to crawl underneath there, and since I'm going to be down there on the creeper anyways, I'll go ahead and cut this side and that side, and then I'll come back and I'll start at the top and I'll cut all the way across the top and all the way through to my other cut. Now what I do is I'm not going to cut on this line, because that line is where I need to be to put it back together. So if I make any kind of mistakes, don't get the cut straight, anything like that, and I go into this line, I'm screwed. So I'm going to cut it just a little bit over to the what I'll call the garbage side, because this piece is scrap after it comes out. So I'll cut into that over here, and then I'll come back with a grinder and I'll grind this perfect to that line, and I'll do the same thing on the front, and then when I roll that forward and put it back together, I got two perfectly straight lines, and I take exactly 14 inches out. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down here and get this cut. Alright, some hot brake fluid down there in the frame rail from cutting that line. Kind of hurts when it hits you in the face. Alright, so I know I said I was going to cut the bottom of the other one too, but I need a break from stuff hitting me in the face. So we're just going to come over here and do this side first. No turning back now. Go over and do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, not exactly what I had in mind, but it'll make it a lot easier to grind on that stuff now. So, see if we can get this last cut made. And then, for some reason those won't plug together. Get this last cut made, and then we'll start cleaning it up. Okay. We got our cuts done. I'm going to go switch out to a grinding disc. Get a drink of water, and yeah, we'll start grinding. Okay. As you guys saw, I got the other side all ground down. And then after I got it all ground perfectly flat on my line, I went ahead and beveled the edges, which I'll show you up close once I get this side done. And I just got to do the same thing over here. Get this down to the line, get that down to the line, bevel the edges. So here we go again. Alright, got it all ground, got it all beveled, and it's pretty much ready to tack back together, but I'm going to let it cool off for a minute. I'm going to cool off for a minute and probably hydrate a little bit and whatnot, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to put a jack underneath the back, because that way I can move it up and down. I got the wheels on it so I can roll it in and out, and we'll get it, once I cool off for a minute, we'll get it back and get it lined up and tack it together. Here goes nothing. You know what, I need to take a thumbnail picture, hold on. Okay, like I said, I was going to get a jack for the back. I got a, I don't know, 8 by 8, 10 by 10, I don't know, whatever the heck it is. I got a chunk of wood there, and I just wanted to make sure my jack would go high enough. But I told you guys I beveled all the edges and I would show you, and if you don't know what that is, beveling is just knocking the corner off. And some people go to where it's a sharp point. I usually try to go about halfway through. And the reason you do that is you do it on both sides, there and there. So when you put the metal back together, especially with thicker metal, it helps with the penetration of your weld. I mean, you're halfway through the metal when you start, and you get your heat in there and you get good penetration, and then you fill that gap, and you get a lot more weld in there. It makes it a lot stronger. Now I am gonna reinforce this after I get it back together. I'll show you how I do that when we get to that point, but for now I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. So I've got clean metal, clean a really good spot for a ground, so I got good clean metal for that. Now this is just an opinion of mine, but you want really good grounds because you want perfect conditions all the way around when you're doing this. So I don't like to, I have before, but I've put some thought into it, and I'm not gonna like clean a spot on the back of the frame on the driver's side and then go weld up the driver's side, come over, weld up the passenger side or whatever. The least amount of path of current you can have, the better your welder's gonna weld. So I'm gonna clean up right 6 inches away, 8 inches away from where I'm welding on both sides, on the driver's side frame rail and the passenger side frame rail. And then I'll move my ground when I move side to side to weld. But I'm gonna get this all lined up the best I can. I'm gonna tack it, and then once I get it tacked in, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna measure. I'll show you what I'm doing, but there's a lot of measurements you can take to make sure you got everything where it needs to be. Make sure it's, like I said, I had everything level. So I'll put it back together and make sure it's still level, because that's important, because that's what we need for it to be right. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll this back forward, jack the back up to where we're sitting where we need to be. And then for now, I'm just gonna set a level on it. And if it shows level, I'm gonna tack it. And some really good strong tacks, so I know it's not gonna pop back apart. Go over to the other side, do the same thing. And then once I get good strong tacks and I know it's well held together and it's not going nowhere, I'm not gonna take any jacks out from under it. I'm not gonna do none of that. I'm gonna leave it just like it is. But when I got good solid tacks and I know it's held together, then I'm gonna get my tape measure out and start measuring. So I'm gonna get it pushed back together. I gotta clean up a little bit around where I beveled, so I got clean metal if I get off the edge a little bit on the weld. and then we'll do all the stuff I just explained to you that we're gonna do, and I'll tell you about it every step of the way. Okay, here we go. I think I got everything out of the way. I got my welder all set up and ready to burn. So, see how it goes. Alright, we're real close. Got everything ready to go. Okay, as you can probably see, we got a gap down there, and we're not level. So, with everything changing and all that, it just tweaked a little bit. And that takes me back to why I left the wheels and tires on and left it to where it can move around, because now I got a good tack at the top. It's together like it needs to be. I can let the air out of the tires, and that's going to bring that back down, which is going to bring that in where it needs to be, and then we'll be in good shape again. So, this is just something quick. Great. Now I got my dang ground stuck under my, well, I guess we're going to tack the other side with the ground on this side because I got the ground stuck under the tire. But I'm going to go get that side tacked, and then we'll let some air out of the tires and get it leveled up like it needs to be. Keep in mind when you're doing this, everything moves. I mean, this is metal that's been twisted up and bound and flexed and stamped and everything else for what, 45 years or something. So it's all going to flex and move around and everything. You just got to be patient with it and put it back where you want it. That passenger side lined up really well. This driver's side did not. So I'm going to manipulate it into where we need it and clamp it in place, and then we'll get it back. Guess I put some pretty good tacks on that. Now, I'm gonna put my level on here, and it's off, but we already know that. So now I'm gonna let air out of this tire, bring it down until that bottom goes together and is level. Alright, you can see the bottom's almost together, and we're real close to being level. I still got more air I can let out of this tire, but I'm going to go ahead and let some out of the other tire. It looks like that side already came together too. Okay, so it's pretty dang close. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, everything kind of twists and turns and does its thing. But I'm going to go ahead and clamp this. Looking really good. I mean, it's not off, but I don't know. You know me, I'm picky about everything. I mean, it's in between the lines on the level. It's level. So. Oh yeah, she's touching. She's level. Go ahead. Now, the reason I use the shorter level here is, one, obviously I cut 14 inches out, so it's hard to get the bigger one in. But also, if you got that big level and you're reaching across that big span, it may not be perfect in the middle and you don't catch it. This little short one is only doing, 8 inches or whatever. So, I mean, you know you're on. So that's why I did it. Alright, I might have got a little carried away with my tacks, but still at a point where I can cut it back off. And hopefully I didn't get good penetration and weld my piece that I'm using to clamp in there, but I know it's probably hot. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to finish off the other side. I don't know if you can see it where you're at, but I'll finish off the other side, get it tacked in, and then we'll come back and we'll do the measurements and see how we're doing. Okay, got both sides tacked in good, and ready to weld up, except I need to do some measuring. So I'm just picking points that I know are gonna tell me if I'm square or not, and that's gonna be good enough. One of them that I did, my old neighbor, he sorry guys, I'm trying to do this and talk at the same time. He was a collision repair specialist or body guy, and he had this tool that was actually for making sure frames were straight. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just measuring from the back of the cab to the back of this, and I got 83 1/4 on this side. I'm just checking to make sure they're both the same length. I'll move my welder out of the way. Just checking to make sure they're both the same length. And then I've already put the level on top of them and on the side of them to make sure they're straight that way. So for some reason, sorry guys, I know I'm throwing you all over the place, but I'm having a little trouble here. So. Okay, I know I didn't show you, I couldn't actually show you, but it's 83 1/4 also. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go from the front bed hole, wherever I can get the tape measure to stay in. I'll do the same thing on the other side. And we're gonna come back here to the front rear hole and center to the edge is, the front edge is 68 1/2. I'll do the same thing over here. Front edge 68 1/2. Dang, it's level, it's square, it's everything I want it to be. I'm gonna go ahead and buzz this sucker up and finish her up. All right, well, I'm not gonna say my welds are pieces of art or anything like that, but they don't look too dang shabby. Almost good enough that he doesn't want to hide the fact that this used to be a long bed. He wants to tell everybody, yeah, it was a long bed and it got shortened and all that. So I have to grind the side welds, but I may leave the top and bottom just because it don't look that bad. And then something I don't normally do, forgot to weld the bottom of that. I better do that now. Something I don't normally do, when I do the 3/4 ton and 1 ton trucks, I double frame them. The 1/2 ton trucks, I don't do that. You don't need to. I usually just cut out a diamond shape gusset on a torch or something, with a torch or something, and weld it on the inside of the frame. But this time I decided to go a little bit further, do something that kind of looked neat and made it look like it did something other than just hack out a piece of metal and weld it on there. So my neighbor, or my buddy, has a CNC plasma table. So I came up with a little design for a fish plate. Grind that weld down, stick that right on there, weld all the way around it, weld the holes in the center, and this frame will be stronger than it was before I cut it. So I'm gonna clean that weld up and get those pieces cleaned up, and then we'll get them put on there. All right, got my welds all ground back off, had the frame all cleaned up. I got one of the gussets here that my buddy made for me, all cleaned up. So I'll go get my clamps again, clamp it on there, make sure it's good and tight, and weld it up. So if you guys don't know, if you haven't done a lot of fab work, a lot of welding or anything, and you might be wondering why I put the holes in the middle of the gussets right there, there's 2 reasons for that. One, if you got a big span and you only got weld all around the outside, and your brake or whatever you're trying to gusset is in the middle, then it's pulling on that weld all the way around the outside. And if you drill holes in the middle and weld them up, then you have weld in there that's holding it also. So that's one reason. The other reason is, kind of looks cool. It takes some of the plainness out of it and gives it something else to look at. But I got it all cleaned up. I got my clamp over there. I'm gonna clamp it on. Welder's already running. We'll get her zapped in there. All right, well, is done. Plates are welded on. Welds don't look too bad if I say so myself. No moss jack stands. This one turned out pretty good too. We have ourselves a short bed. By the way, I don't know if you can see it or not, but here's our 30 minutes of rain for today. I don't know what the heck's up with that crap, but anyways, Shorty is a shorty. So I'm not gonna like clean off the slag or anything right now, because I've got more fab work I gotta do. I've got a bunch of cleanup I gotta do before I paint the frame. So when I get ready to paint the frame, I'll do all that. But I'm gonna get some primer and go ahead and shoot it on there just so it don't surface rust and give me more work later. I did go ahead and run a bead down the inside. Did it need it? No. Does it make me more comfortable? Not really. I trusted it anyways, but it looks better and it doesn't hurt nothing. So we got a bead run there. So I'm gonna go grab some primer, shoot some primer on there. I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Okay, got it primered. It's done. Shortened. Just needs to be scuffed up a little bit with some sandpaper, cleaned up, and then painted when I paint the rest of the frame. Good to go. And I just did the generator to find out who won the t-shirt. And so the winner of the t-shirt from the last video is Brent Crawford. So if you're Brent Crawford and you want to claim your t-shirt that you won, send me an email with your size and your address. My email address is in the description of the video, or you can send me a private message on Facebook or Instagram. Whichever way. I don't want you putting your size and address out in the comments and giving everybody your personal business. So email, Facebook, Instagram. However you want to reach out to me, that'll be fine. We'll get the shirt out to you. Don't forget, we're doing it again. We're doing a giveaway for this video. So make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment, and when I do the next video, it might be 2 days from now, might be 4 days from now, might be 6 days from now. Whenever I do the next video, when I'm finishing that video, I'll do the random comment generator from the previous video, and somebody else will win a shirt. So don't give up, you still got a chance. That's pretty much it. Shorty's a shorty. And we got a long way to go on this. Now, just in case anybody tries to catch me on it, I did tell you that you take 4 or 5 inches off the back. I did not do that because, like I said, I like to do that when I put the bed on, because I like to leave as much as I can. So not only that, but we're going with a rear frame mount tank and some other stuff. So there's still a whole bunch of work I have to do back there, so I can do it all at the same time. But that's it. Truck shortened, it's good to go. That's gonna do it for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to leave a comment. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.